Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host today, Samantha Studebaker Carl, and I'm here with my good friends Catherine and Dan and Jason and Kenji and Lori. And today we're continuing our discussion of Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Myss. Okay, we can't see it. My background thing wants to be weird, but either way, Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Myss. We're in chapter 5. Yes, chapter 5, identifying your archetypal patterns. And we're at the section titled Warrior on Demand, which in the hard copy, it's page 151. But before we get going with that, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves. And then, Catherine, you can take it away with the reading.
Lori Emmons in Denver, messing around.
Hey, good morning. Jason Robertson, Tampa. Glad to be here.
And Sisik in Las Vegas, also glad to be here.
Kenji Gourmet.
I like that picture too, Kenji. That's cute.
Very
Okay.
appropriate.
Yeah. Warrior on demand. As you think through the many archetypes, try to remember times when you rose to an occasion or acted against, quote, type, became someone you almost didn't recognize. For instance, Rita is normally quiet and reserved. When her son was beaten by 3 boys on the school playground, however, she took on the persona of the warrior as she exploded into his school to confront the principal and other administrators. Rita proclaimed that if anything like that ever happened again, she would wage a battle, the warrior word she used, in the local courts and take on the school authorities who failed to protect her son. That got the administrators' attention, and they addressed the issue appropriately. Once Rita felt that her son was in safe territory, she could afford to release the intensity with which she had drawn on the psychic field of the warrior archetype. She told me that when the air cleared from this incident, she nearly collapsed with exhaustion. Part of that exhaustion resulted from a sudden break with an unconscious source of power that had been generating energy for her during that crisis via the warrior archetype. When an archetypal pattern steps into the foreground of our life dramas, most people describe a dramatic shift in their energy field. This explanation felt on target to Rita, who quickly noticed that other places in her life where the warrior made an appearance whenever she needed it most, and she concluded that the warrior was one of her 12 archetypes. A major directive that helps you determine your archetype is describe in detail my unfinished business with someone. Many people give a brief answer the first time around, or even state that they have absolutely no unfinished business with anyone. That response often indicates so large a reservoir of unresolved conflict or guilt that they cannot bear to go near the memories. Instead, allow the questions gradually to open up your memory bank and draw to the surface bits and pieces of your past, which could be as minuscule as a conversation with a stranger or as traumatic as sexual molestation. These memories may not present themselves on first recall, since most of us do not often visit the murky waters beneath the surface of our history. The list of questions is long, but your psyche is vast. It never rests, but you cannot rush these associations through your unconscious and conclude that you have discovered all there is to know by answering them. You may want to go back through this list more than once for each archetype too. Each time you conduct an interview with an archetype, you awaken more memories and new associations. You are collecting fragments of your life, almost as an archaeologist gathers the shards of ancient pottery. Later, these fragments will organize themselves because they know where they belong. Throughout my own life, for instance, I've met fragments of my rebel in many places and within the electricity of several relationships. Being a rebel is part of my contract, a path through which I have come to know God. I have rebelled against the politics of my religious upbringing, although I decided to rebel with the aid of masters by entering a graduate program in theology. I reflect the rebel in my writing, in my teachings, and in my research. The rebel archetype has provided me with my greatest personal, academic, and spiritual challenges. I can feel it emerge in my psyche under certain circumstances, sometimes positive, sometimes not. But whenever I feel that force coming forward, I am alerted that something of spiritual significance for me is about to occur. This archetype is part of the reason why standing up to convention has never been difficult for me, but rather an attractive investment of my time and energy. I am also aware that my rebellious nature sometimes hits the extreme and that I can lose sight of the issues I am confronting. Yet the rebel is me, and it affords me an appreciation for this trait in other rebels I have met along the way. One summer night, not long ago, for instance, I came across a group of 15-year-old rebels in the parking lot of a White Hen pantry near my home in Chicago. These semi-tough kids were making their independence known with their tattoos and piercings, their version of communicating with swords rather than pens. The leader was easily recognizable because he had more of both insignias than anyone else in the group. He obviously was also the warlord because when I spoke to them as a group, all eyes looked to him. I asked these young rebels if they would explain to me why they chose to pierce their bodies. Like James Dean in the classic film Rebel Without a Cause, the group leader had to respond to me sarcastically and with an appropriate display of street gang disrespect by stating that they pierced their bodies because of the yellow duck I have in my bathroom. His dismissive answer was a test of whether I would respect them. When I simply nodded my head in acknowledgement, I was accepted into their field. I asked them if they were aware that piercing was an ancient spiritual practice common to many civilizations. I told them that piercing rituals were ways of honoring one's inner power and recognizing that a young man had come into a stage of maturity in which he was capable of taking charge of a part of his tribe, thus commanding respect. I explained further that all this has to do with the power that comes from understanding spirituality. We don't believe in religion, the leader said. I didn't say religion, I replied. I said spirituality, the journey of the power of your spirit. His defensive demeanor suddenly melted. We don't know anything about spirituality. Can you teach us? He asked. I was momentarily stunned by their response and display of emotional vulnerability, and I told them that they would first have to ask their parents for permission for me to teach them. If it was acceptable to their parents, we could begin. Unfortunately, I never met them again, and so that opportunity never came to pass, but I hope that these rebels will seek out more information on their archetypal passage into adulthood. I remember them and their profound spiritual impact on my own soul, along with the way my own rebel archetype gave way to the teacher in that exchange. Do you want me to do the next one?
That's fine.
No, that starts into a much longer section that because it's talking
Okay.
about asking the questions and then it gives a whole bunch of different kinds of questions to ask. So I think that's kind of more of a different topic.
All right.
I think we could talk about this one. Oh, I gotta take this call. Can you guys
Okay.
go forward? Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah.
We can surely talk about the rebel in all of us.
I think we
Rebel?
all have some sort of rebel. I know I look at myself and I think I'm a rebel, but the way I like to classify it is I'm more of a subversive rebel. If you can kind of understand what I'm saying, I don't a lot of times outwardly really rebel unless I feel like I'm really pushed, and then I really have to just like react or something like that. I tend to do it more subtly and more quietly and in a roundabout way because I really don't like confrontation until I'm really pushed or cornered. Then kind of that warrior, like that mother, all hell will break loose and I will come out and I will not give a damn what the hell happens to you or anybody else if you get in my way at that point.
The
I think-
filter goes away.
Yeah. And at that point, I mean, my stepdad learned that when he threw me against the wall as like an 8 or 9-year-old. I didn't just sit there cower or anything. I jumped off my bed, leapt in his arms and bit him on the chest and didn't let go. So that shows you where I can come from or where I can go to, but I really have to be pushed. Otherwise, I'm just very low key and do it in a roundabout way.
As a mother, definitely can add that rebel to the 4 basic of the prostitute, that inner child, and I forget them now.
Yeah, that mama bear energy is strong. And it comes out not just for your own children, but for any group that you're kind of in or put in charge of or whatever. It can really, I can be a big mama bear when I need to be. But I'm like you, Dan, I really dislike confrontation. I even dislike just energetic, I don't know how to say it, energetic downness. Like because it's easy for me, and I'm sure Kenji can agree, it's easy to go, and Lori too, easy to go to a negative thinking space. It's very easy to go there, but I don't let myself go there. And I prefer that the people around me don't let themselves go there. You know, I mean, sometimes you have to vent or whatever, but as far as the majority of the time, I prefer it to be more of a positive environment than a negative one. What about you, Jason?
I'm not sure. I guess I've always felt like you get more out of situations if you don't rebel against the common discourse the of the event. And so I've always been pretty well tempered in regards to those things, but I think I experience a kind of rebellion, kind of a quiet rebellion within myself sometimes, after being so demanding and restrictive of my emotions, I guess, and where you just want to, the kind of I mean, it's the kind of rebellion where you just want to, uh, put all your put your well, put your important things aside and just maybe sleep in all day or something. It's like like, because I really I value life and time, and I'm grateful for so many things, but sometimes you just get tired of the junk that comes along with stuff, and you sort of want to say, well, you know what, if how about I just don't participate today, and take that. Give me some me time type of rebellion. um but I had plenty of time to physically kind of act out in all the sports that I play, and all the physical things that I would do um in my childhood adventures, pushing myself to, you know, jump higher and run faster and all that kind of stuff. But I don't really, I mean, I was thinking, is that really rebellion though? I mean, that's not really, that's, not really pushing back against anything. It's sort of like testing and, pressing pressing myself to see my limits. So um, sometimes I guess I get caught up on the wording of what they're talking about. Rebellion, or are we, um, or is it something else or that we're talking about? I'm not sure sometimes. So.
I think it's going against whatever is expected of you as a sort of a norm, a normal thing or whatever, that no, I'm going to rebel against that. In
Well,
some places, rebellion is a good thing, where you rebel against peer pressure or someone trying to lead you another way that you're not going.
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
you can even rebel against like family dynamics that have been around for years and years and are kind of maybe entrenched, and you're trying to rebel against that and help change that. And I think the warrior and the rebel kind of work hand in hand, but I think the warrior serves a more practical defense for us, where, like in the case of this mother with her son who had been bullied and stuff, it wasn't until that happened to her son that that warrior came out to defend and protect. And I think that's somewhere a little bit where the warrior and the rebel kind of get, you know, they think, look at that sometimes, oh, you're just being rebel. Well, no, you really know the circumstances, the reason why I'm being the way I am. And sometimes it's pure being rebellion, and you want to go against the constructs of what's is, I don't want to say oppressing, but what you seem is not the right direction for you, I guess, or something, or in the way you see things or agree. Whereas I think warriors more coming to for in a roundabout way, a higher purpose. And she didn't get that way until her son that way. I wouldn't get that way until it dealt with somebody in my family or good friends that I love and care about, or you guys, or, things like that. That warrior would come out, but most of the time it would go more into that quiet rebellion and discourse for me, if I feel it's something that is more internal and something more towards me. If maybe that might help a little bit.
Yeah, because it sort of seems like the story that was told was a little bit also like a protector guardian type of archetype. But maybe if it's turned internally rather than outward, maybe that makes a difference. Or is it all, combined into the same thing, maybe?
I think you kind of hit a little bit right there, because I'm sure there's probably some type of protector archetype or protective archetype, and I think it's a little different for everybody, because we're all different in that respect. And a lot of times I think for me, I analyze and go over things in my head so many times, then, and that's really when I kind of look at it and say, okay, is this really something against me? And then that's maybe when I go to that quiet rebellion and do, or is this something against those I care about, or things I'm, and then that's when I decide, okay, is this something I need to become more outward and vocal, or something in that sense, but sometimes it just happens and we switch into that mode too. It just comes from nowhere. Too, I think, kind of like, with her in the story about her, it wasn't until her son came home and it switched that switch for her. And I think we all have those little things that flip, for lack of a better term, flip a switch in us to bring out aspects of who we are and how God created us and how we react and handle things.
A warrior definitely gets us through things too, or at least my warrior does. They call us CRPS warriors. I don't particularly like warrior because to me, I keep hearing in my mind, what you resist persists. So what you're fighting against persists. But at the same time, sometimes it takes that warrior energy just to get through a day or to get through a task that you're trying to complete or whatever. So the warrior can definitely be more than just about protection. It can be about not persistence, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like, it can fuel you when you need the fuel. When you don't have your own fuel, suddenly that warrior energy can come in and help get you through something.
Yeah, it's almost like the warrior can take on the rebel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your warrior, and yeah.
Yes. But you brought up an interesting point, Catherine, for me, because I feel that my warrior has been sustaining me, I'll be honest, over quite a long period of time, because every day after I'm done going through my Ubering, and then I come home and I want to try and do things and do this, get done and stuff. It's just a lot to get me through my day each day with all the things I've been dealing with over the last while. I'll just put it out there like that. It's been a long while. And there are days where I just come home, and after I do the essential that I really need to do, there are times I'll come home with the best intentions and then I just don't want to do anything. Kind of like what you were saying, Jason. I just want to just kind of disappear in a sense and not do anything, just kind of be in my own world and just kind of do my own thing. And it's but it's that part of me, that warrior, I think, that's just pushing me every day to get up, do what I have to absolutely do. And then if I got enough energy when I get home to do the extra things I want to do and push. And other times I just come home and I don't do a lot. It's interesting, but to have this conversation, it's helping me bring that to a little bit of light.
Yeah, that makes sense. Regulating our energy levels, I think, has a lot to do with it. I don't know. I was listening to something on the physical brain that we have, and the different lobes and how they affect our or where we supposedly get our our logical and our creative sides from where that activity is in our brain. Um, and it was kind of interesting because in a similar fashion, they were talking about different, almost like different personalities that we all have that are like like 8 different personalities that originate from different areas of the brain. And some, so where some are purely logical, and some are purely um, uh, purely just creative, and um, some are bound by um, certain constraints, or maybe beliefs, or even in consideration of our own body. And then maybe on the creative side, there's maybe to a greater extent um, less of that grounding and more of a feeling of vastness and oneness with the universe. And so it's sort of just crossed my mind, and what it was we've been speaking about here about the archetypes, that I was wondering, like, where where would these different archetypes um be generated from in our within our brains, um, in a medical perspective. But it was fascinating because they could really pinpoint where certain types of thought were coming from. Um, and I think that may have something to do with how we are experiencing these archetypes, these personality traits that we have, and even to the extent that we can access that um, sort of spirituality, um, in that sort of a framework.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that, because I think you helped hit on something. I think for me, God in his greatness didn't make us one dimensional. He made us very multifaceted. And I do believe that we do have more than one. We have like one overall um personality, but we also have um other personalities that, like, I think, like you said, probably work with these archetypes that are brought out. And so that personality kind of comes out in us, where sometimes people will say, look at you kind of funny and go, where'd this person come from?
Mm-hmm.
And it's,
That idea.
yeah, and it's like you're a whole different person than they've ever seen. And it's like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But I think, you know, I think we do have those different personalities that come in and come out, as needed, and to help us, like, I'll say my warrior personality, so to speak, that comes out really, strong in certain cases, you know, and but doesn't come out often unless I really need it. And sometimes I think people are taken back when I can really kind of dig in my heels and be a certain way. And other times, they see me as something else. But I, uh, I, I think you kind of, help shed a little bit of an insight on that. That it helps bringing that all together and pointing out to that we probably do have more than one personality. We just have the general, and that is our basic self. But in times of whatever, we pull out that personality and archetype to fit. You know,
I don't know that I would call them all personalities. I don't know what I would call them, but just different aspects of how you respond and how you react and how you reply, how you manage things. Like I am a mother, and I would have a hard time giving myself credit for being that mom that still allowed damage to happen to my kids, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. And maybe what I did do wasn't correct, obviously, because my kids have rebelled. Definitely, they rejected. They're, when I should have done something differently, who knows? And then listening to the so-called experts, that would told me not to respond a certain way or whatever, so I didn't. And then how my kids interpreted that is something beyond me.
My mom used to think Dr. Phil was the eminent specialist in early childhood development, but she would never really listen because he was always talking about the parent taking care of their inner self first before they can take care of their child's, and she just seemed to have always missed that part.
Right. I know there's a lot of things I was not able to take care of myself first.
Right.
So
Right.
how can I help my kids?
Yes. So then it's not your fault. So stop blaming yourself.
No, I don't blame
No,
myself.
I know. I'm talking more to
Um,
myself.
I'm just, after all these years, what do I do?
You want to be my mom?
Eh,
I'd love to
I
have
don't
you as
want to
my
be.
mom.
I don't make a very good mom, apparently.
Well, it'd be easy because you don't got to do anything. Yeah, I think you'd be a good mom.
I was a good mom.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were.
It
It
was.
just
I heard that. Who said that? Sure you were.
no, I'm sure you were.
Oh, I'm sure. I thought you said sure
Sure
you were. Oh, oh.
Funny. But it got me thinking when they were talking about and talking about the archetypes and talking about the different parts of the lobes of the brain and whatnot and what they all contribute to ourselves. They sort of like what Lori was saying, they're not separate personalities, but they're part of our personality. However, what they were in um, when they were demonstrating about the brain, they were talking about how like um, a, a hemorrhage in a particular part of the brain would cut off the the complete ability of the person to do certain things to that they would have already known how to do, but now suddenly they don't understand. They can't read numbers or they can't speak or that sort of thing. Or they have this feeling of being outside of their body and not being confined to it because of a certain part of their brain not being able to function. And then, you know, thinking about that and how different parts of the mind can sort of look at the same subject in both a creative way and a logical way. It's got me to thinking about of our previous books and how we talk about our mindset, and how it's so important that we
Tiny little
be
piece.
in alignment with that which we're trying to accomplish. And so it became very apparent to me about how in or out of alignment these archetypes or personalities or parts of the brain might be or not be at any given moment. And instead of being so it was sort of like, because there's different levels of alignment, right? There's our physical actions being in alignment. Oh, are you in alignment? Are you in such a way that you're waking up on time or plenty of early so you can get ready and be prepared to do the thing you want to do and have the right energy? Are you eating correctly? Are you hydrating? Are you preparing yourself mentally, as far as being in the right spirit of whatever it is you're going to go do, as well as this sort of archetype type of understanding, to where those are in alignment, where your king is presiding over the whole thing, but allowing his subjects and to do what they need to do and guiding them along. And then your warrior is fighting alongside of you, and your protector is got your back, and all these other, so I obviously complicated it very well, and I thought I would
You did.
dump that on your shoulders.
Well, the
No,
brain
you
is
did
very,
great.
yeah, you did do great. The brain is very interesting, and not only, well, some people, their brain is just different from birth, but other people, they might have had like a head injury or something. And like you said, it can damage a certain part of the brain, and their entire demeanor, their entire personality changes. That can also happen with medications. Like, I have to take medications around the clock. Kenji, we have to take medications around the clock. And if I'm busy doing something, I'm in a Zoom or whatever, when it's time to take my medicine, and then I kind of, maybe it's an hour or 2 hours since I was supposed to take it. And all of a sudden I turn into like the most complete bitch I might not outwardly show it, but I might be sitting on a Zoom with people thinking like, why don't you just fuck up? Or, like I get really short tempered, and I just turn into a bitch. And I know the minute I do that, I say, I forgot to take my medicine, so it's alarming to me how much that medicine controls my brain, which is why I don't like to take them, but I don't have a choice. Otherwise, I'm just screaming in pain until I'm too exhausted to scream. So the medicines are necessary, but they can completely change your personality just by missing a dose by an hour or two. And people that have these head injuries, concussions, I've had a lot of concussions. I've never had my brain scanned to see what damage is there, but I'm sure that would show up, because you can only hit your head so many times without it having some kind of an effect on you, right?
Mhm.
But I think that these personalities or archetypes or whatever you want to call them, I think they're so necessary for us. Imagine how helpless we would be if we didn't have that warrior step in once in a while or the rebel step in once in a while. We would be very
Prostitute either,
sorry.
or the prostitute either.
Yeah. You know, we would, maybe this is why I never feel alone, because I've got all these personalities running around.
Well, it doesn't seem to have affected your brain to me, you know.
No, I think you're kind of as normal as all of us. Because I was going to say, I have actually fallen downstairs and landed on my head on a concrete basement floor. No bleeding, no nothing. I have also cracked, I guess when I was 3, I cracked my head open out camping with family one time. So I'm sure my brains are a little scrambled up here too. But I think, you know, we all have that. Because I've been in Zoom, so I've been listening to people, and like you, I mean, I keep a lid on it most of the time. Every now and then I might pop off or stuff, but most times I'll keep a lid on it. And even though I'm thinking, oh my God, will they just shut up, or they're just going on and on. And I'm sure you guys think that about me at times, because I know I can go on and
Oh,
on.
never.
You know, because I always have stuff to say. But so I think you're more normal than you give yourself credit for. And you know, we all have our, and I think we called it before, our quirks, our things that, you know, that make us us.
Idiosyncrasies.
Yeah, that make us us. So in that sense, and that which makes you you, and part of what we love about you, you know. So in that sense, you know, and I agree. I think we need these archetypes, personalities, aspects of ourselves that I think God gave us to help us deal with life down here. You know, because if we didn't have them, oh my God, I'd probably be just a puddle somewhere.
What's
And
really been coming to my mind is the Tower of Babel, when they ate of the fruit or whatever and confused all the language and confused all the thought types and personalities, whatever, different aspects.
yeah,
It's
that,
all just confused.
yeah, because there was a reason on that, but
I
and
don't know that
it's so
story. Tell me that story, Dan. I'm not familiar with it.
okay. In the Tower of Babel, what the man was building was a tower up to God, basically, because they were trying to make themselves like God, or that's what the Bible says. And that's, in essence, I believe that, because we tend to build our towers, and even in ourselves, we do that, you know. And at that point, God said that, you know, they will become like me, and they're not. They're created beings made, you know, and so he confused them so that way they couldn't build anymore. But look at us, we're building big towers. Dubai has the tallest building in the world now. So I mean, that's part of the beauty and genius, that even though God confused us, he also allowed us
The
ways.
languages.
Yeah, he still allowed us ways to over time still learn to communicate and come around that. I don't think man builds towers per se trying to reach God. I think they just build towers because they want to build the biggest tower in this and that, you know, or say, okay, we did this, we have the biggest tower. But after a while, you can only go so high before ultimately, you know, a slight move in the earth and it's going to, you know, fall. So, but that's basically how that works, depending on how, what you believe and how you look at it. But
Is
you
that
know,
talking about like building yourself up from ego? Is that like a,
yeah, I think
okay,
so. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
part of it.
yeah.
okay, gotcha. thank you for sharing that.
Hmm.
You'd be, well, I don't know if you'd be proud of me or not, but I have been having discussions with missionaries. I figure they need somebody nice to talk to once in a while. So
Until
we,
they bring the rebel out.
I mean, I love talking about Jesus. I love Jesus. I think he's super cool. So I don't have any problem with them stopping by and talking to me. And they're from the Latter-day Saints or whatever, but
The
they
Mormons,
believe,
yeah.
yeah, they believe in visions, like it's not their Bible, but like their Book of Mormon or whatever they call it. That was actually started by, like, I think he was 13 or 14 years old when he had this vision. So they believe, like, they don't think people that have visions are insane or anything. They're quite open-minded in that aspect. And so that makes them easier to talk to than a lot of people, because I'm in a very conservative and Christian state, and if you have visions, then you just need to go to the loony bin with those people.
No,
You're possessed.
no,
Yeah, you're possessed, exactly.
That's
I,
what they believe.
see now I'm a little different. I believe that you can have visions. I believe God does allow visions and dreams still to this day. It just depends on, what he's sharing with you and what he shows. So I don't have any problems with that, on that end, and
I have a problem that I don't feel like I get visions, and when I really need or want a vision, what am I supposed to do here?
yes, that would help me in some of my stuff. It'd be like, Lord, please just show me, direct me, give me a arrow or something pointing which way to go to get out of this muck, but I've got to walk through it and I've got to deal with it, and I'm trying. But
It's always a labyrinth for me, like deceptive, and it changes and it messes with you. And
I keep getting the dead ends.
I get that too.
Oh, but
I think it's
I, oh, go ahead.
I think that well, it's interesting that even if were to get that direct guidance, um, because of the way we are, we would it would probably be kind of like to go back to the Wizard of Oz. We probably would not listen to it, you know, from the unless it was from the wizard. you know, if it was from just if it was just the normal person saying, yeah, this is what you got to do. But when he goes behind, he's like, okay, hold on, let me go behind the curtain, and I'm the great powerful Wizard of Oz. This is
Well,
listen to Dan, he knows what he's talking about.
I'm afraid
Then
if
am I
I had that
follow?
vision, the rebel or the prostitute or something would try to interfere.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I agree with you on that point, because until we believe that it's from a valid source, and I'm saying it that way, valid source that we feel like we really can trust, and half the time it is coming from a valid source. We just don't realize it, that it's a good family friend or colleague or somebody that's helping us see, head down towards this way or try this or do that. And we're like, oh no, they don't understand. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't, get what, is happening. And so we, say, oh, well, I'm not gonna, thank you for it, but I'll figure it out. And, but yeah, we all want that,
Recognizing the saboteur.
we just want that thing that just, like you said, the wizard, and for me, God, okay, just give me, download it to me, something, anything, you know, so I can walk my way out of this labyrinth and get to, the promised land, so to speak, and come into my own, and to where I'm not struggling anymore. But I think, to go back to these archetypes and all this, I
Been
think,
to my parlor and look at my etchings.
and just understand that they're with us for a reason, and they are part of what help us finagle and finesse our way through life. And the more we understand some of these things, the better I think we understand ourselves, and then the better we can understand, as I look at it and I see it, how God created everything and moves me in this great, beautiful universe that we live in.
I have a quick example because I'm going to have to jump off in a second, but a perfect example yesterday. Well, over the last week and a half, something like that, I was promoted to a certain position, and I'm thinking, there's no way I can do this. Like, I don't have the energy to do this. I don't have the personality to do this. I don't have, and I kept telling myself, well, you shouldn't think that way. You should just think of it as this is a great opportunity and you need to take advantage of it. But there's like these conflicting voices in my head. And then suddenly on the TV, kind of like when I was watching The Wizard of Oz and I got the message from the Cowardly Lion situation, I opened my ears for just a moment, and the conversation on the TV was about this group of people who were about to try this pretty much impossible thing that they knew they didn't have the ability to do or whatnot, but they just did it, and it worked out great and everything was wonderful. But for some reason, even though I had been telling myself these things in my head, when I heard it come through the TV, God speaks to me through the TV, through music, through bugs, through everything. So,
Yeah.
but once I heard it from the TV, I was like, of course you can do this. There's not anything you can't do. So, just a quick example, but sometimes the messages come from the place you would least suspect. So just be open to all of them. I love you guys so much. I'm going to drop off. I'm sure.
Well,
Love you too. Have a great week.
well, we're at the
Thank
top of the hour anyway, so any last thoughts or words? Samantha had to jump off. I don't know if you saw in the comments that her mom was in an accident yesterday, so just keep her and her mom in your thoughts and prayers. That she says her mom's okay, so I hope it all just works out and all that. But any last thoughts on this
I saw
before
you
we
pop
wrap it up?
out, Kenji.
What's that?
I saw you pop out. I didn't know if you wanted to say something or.
Oh, no, I'm okay. Thank you.
I'll just say, hey, get inspiration wherever you can, guys. I mean, absolutely. If you need some guidance and you're looking for something, don't I just
That's what we
be
come
open
here
to it.
for, to hear from
Call
you.
Call
That's
the
right.
Mormons. Call the Mormons.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Elders. They were special in my childhood. Someday I'll tell you about that.
Cool.
Awesome. I
All
love
right.
you guys.
Love you guys.
Love you
Love
guys.
you too.
Yeah.
Everybody have a great week.
So with that, for the Saturday Morning Mastermind, we're here almost every Saturday, as much as we can be. Hopefully Samantha will be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. You can find us on Facebook at Mindset Mastery Collective, also on our YouTube channel, also at Mindset Mastery Collective, and then our website, mindsetmasterycollective.com, I think it is. So we look forward to seeing you next week. That's it for the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, come on, where is it? There it is.